Talking sports with Nooner and Forrest here on Thanksgiving Eve, one of my favorite holidays of the entire year. Probably my favorite holiday, be honest with you, Thanksgiving. Gotta love the turkey, gotta love the dressing. Only when the
Yes.
dressing is done right. If you don't know how to do dressing, don't try to make the dressing because you're going to screw it up and then you screw Thanksgiving. So let's just, anyway. Anyway, so yes, brought back to you on this Wednesday evening. Of course, most of you will probably see this post Thanksgiving, but if you do see this post Thanksgiving, we just want to appreciate you for listening in. So, Brad, I have, as you well know, your wife has done a very good job with our design and everything like that. And I think it's time that eventually we're gonna sell shirts. But
Yeah.
so anyway, so today I am about to unveil our new logo. This is the new logo
Yeah.
that your wife made for us. We are debuting it today on Talking Sports with Dinner and Forest. The YouTube channel has already been updated with this logo. The Facebook page will be updated with this logo before I post it. Which will most likely be Friday morning, and so that way we have a brand spanking new logo, and this is about as close as it's going to get. Now, as most of you are aware, I do not have a beard right now. I do not grow my beard out during this time, and if I do, it's because I'm on break. But I officiate a lot of ball games during this time of year, and so from August all the way until mid-February, I will be continuing officiating sports, mostly basketball, and I just finished football a couple weeks back. But with that being said, Brad, it looks like you are surrounded in a hotel room. It's
Yeah.
blurred out, of course, but I can still tell you're not at home anymore. You're not in the village anymore.
Now, which I love being in the village, but it's very nice to get away. So, like I said, me and my wife, we were talking earlier, me and my wife is celebrating our 13th wedding anniversary this Friday. So,
Shout out to that.
yeah, that's part of the reason why we're here. And like I say, we're spending Thanksgiving with my in-laws, with Emily's mother and her family, and like I say, we're just kind of spending some time together, just kind of getting away for a minute. I know it's been busy for you, it's been busy for me. Uh, and everything else. Even today, I had prayers for this family. I had a congregant that passed away, and we had to me and an elder
Mm,
went to his wife and prayed with her. So I mean, it's been it's been a busy time, but I love what I do, and I just but I'm also glad to have a break. So this is a break for me. So um, appreciate appreciate doing this because I love what we do, Ricky, and again, happy Thanksgiving to all. And just like you, this is probably my favorite holiday too. I like it because it's an opportunity for us to ponder and to reflect on what matters in life, and that's family, and for the blessings that God has given us.
that is very true. That is very, very true. And so, yeah, so happy Thanksgiving to your family as well as as anyone that listens to this upcoming podcast. So, a lot to discuss today. Today we're gonna look in a little bit of basketball today. I promised my brother Matt. Of course, you've never met Matt. Um, I know you've met Patrick several years ago. So Matt's technically my stepbrother, but you and I both know there's no step in our family. We don't consider that anyway. So he got married. Oh gosh, I wish I remember the date when he got married. I want to say it was over the summer. It may have been the spring. I can't remember, but it's been a while back. But him and his wife, they're currently expecting. As a matter of fact, they're expecting a little girl, and so they're all the way up in Mountain View. That's where they live, is in Mountain View. I took a trip up there. Me and Patrick both did. Took a trip up there. I did their wedding for them. It was an outside. It was a lovely ceremony and everything like that. With that being said, um, I lost my train of thought. Oh yes, his brother-in-law Nate, is a Wichita State Shockers fan, and I promised him that I would bring up the Wichita State Shockers whenever we started talking basketball. He's huge. He's huge into Wichita State. He's a huge wrestling fan, I mean, he could sit there and talk wrestling. He could talk whatever the case would be. He could do it just as much as you and I can. Um, and so I promised him that anytime we talked basketball, if Wichita State brought, so we're going to actually I'll actually preview a little bit of Wichita State as we're going on today. But the big question, and it's the big question, Brad, that we're definitely going to discuss. This is the big one. Hunter Yurachek announced earlier in the week Sam Pittman will be brought back for a fifth. I think next year will be year 5. Is that correct?
Year 5 officially, year 4 according to his contract because the COVID year does not count, which I'm going to get into that.
I'd be okay with that. I'm okay with that.
Yeah,
That's no big deal. And so
but
I'm more than okay. I'm more than okay with that. So I'm going to ask you this, Brad. Is this the right decision? Did Hunter Yurachek make the right decision?
well, I want to make this in preference. So when we had our last podcast, Ricky, it was a Monday night, and that was during the time where Sam Pittman actually had his press conference after the Auburn game. And when I was listening to Sam Pittman, it seemed like a guy that was not very concerned about his job during that time. And I kept on wondering in my mind that will Sam Pittman actually be retained? I was thinking that even back then. And of course, when Hunter Yurachek actually announced this decision, I was not surprised at all, personally, because of the way Sam Pittman had been talking during his press conferences. And it was just Hunter Yurachek just verifying what I thought was was an was what was going to be that Sam Pittman was going to return to season 5. If you look at parallels, like I said, this is pretty much parallels really Brett Bielema's tenure at Arkansas. History has it. Brett Bielema went 4-8 in his 4th season, and he was fired. And he was fired. Remember walking out of the Missouri game, and Sam Pittman can very
I
easily
thought that
finish.
was his 5th year.
No, it's 4 years. He was only here
Was it
4
4
years.
years?
Yeah,
Okay.
he was 4 years, and so it was year 4, and he finished 4-8. He was fired while walking off the field, and of course, I think at that time, had really thought they had locked up Gus Malzahn, but ended up Gus, used Arkansas to get a bigger contract, which for a business decision, good for Gus. But because of that, we had an interim AD. We ended up with Chad Morris during that break. So to get to the point, so the reason why I mentioned about the contract is because a lot of fans want to really state, well, this is Sam Pittman's 4th season, and this is like, well, you got to understand, he had a COVID year too. And so you can't really count the COVID year. And I know how fans are and everything else. They would like to count the COVID year, but you can't do that. Some fans, some fanatics would like to do that, but you cannot count that. So really, this is Sam Pittman's 3rd year, if you want to really digest Sam Pittman's tenure. I would say number one. Number two, the second thing is I'm not saying I'm for Sam Pittman being retained. I think this was as bad as a coaching job that's really ever been done at the University of Arkansas, especially with all the talent that we've had. And his undoing being the offensive line is a shocker. Now, I will say this. I'm glad to see the team still fighting. I thought the FIU would be a closer game than it was because I thought it would be like when remember Bielema barely squeaking out a win against Coastal Carolina before Missouri that same year when Coastal Carolina was brand new to FBS football, and they barely snuck out a win against Coastal Carolina. I thought it would be a similar situation, but it was not. So the players are still playing for Sam Pittman. They still believe in Sam Pittman. So I think that's a positive. But Ricky, I'm not really, the thing about it is, Ricky, is this: football is your biggest moneymaker. Saturday night, there was hardly anybody at the stadium. Hardly anybody at the stadium. And you got to wonder if there's going to be hardly anybody at the stadium Friday against Missouri. Actually, Missouri could possibly, I wouldn't say they would outdraw Arkansas, but I would bet it might be 60-40 Arkansas. It might be 40% Missouri fans at Razorback Stadium on Friday. I would not doubt that at all, which would be very, very disappointing considering and very sad considering that, with this team that we had this year, we could be talking to like we are about Missouri right now. We could be talking about 10-2, 9-3 season very easily if some of these games went our way instead of the opposite way, and et cetera, et cetera. That's another thing. But it was very disappointing. There was no, but Arkansas at home has not played very inspired at all. They didn't play inspired against Mississippi State. They didn't play inspired against Auburn, obviously. Well, of course, Auburn didn't play inspired against New Mexico State, which they paid them $1.8 million and they got butts kicked. Apparently, Hugh Freeze just has problems with New Mexico State for some reason. But anyway,
Yep. That's his kryptonite.
That's the second straight year he's lost to New Mexico State. But anyway, the point is, I want it to be a good decision, Ricky, but there's got to be some changes that is made during the offseason, Ricky. They got to get an offensive coordinator that's going to fit the scheme. That's going to be a scheme that can work with Arkansas and its personnel. Arkansas's got to get some offensive linemen. They got to get some offensive linemen in the portal. I mean, we probably need about 2 or 3 offensive linemen at least. So we need some offensive linemen. Arkansas, of course, I think one of the reasons why Arkansas made this decision to retain Sam Pittman was to save the money for NIL. Obviously, Arkansas has not struggled with NIL per se, but Arkansas is, Arkansas needs the money in order to compete with some of these other schools. And so I think that's another reason why they are saving the money for it. Now, I'm not saying Arkansas don't have money because obviously we do. We've heard stories about Arkansas and their money, and they do have money. But, to me, it's like Trey Biddy said, if the reason why we retained Sam Pittman was because we couldn't pay out his contract, well, there's a problem, and we probably need to leave the SEC. That's not saying we should leave the SEC, but if we don't have the money to do that, how are you going to compete? It's about competition and competing. But the thing about it is, Ricky, is this. I want Sam Pittman to succeed. I really do. But I don't like this decision. I think Arkansas should have moved on. I think Arkansas could have gotten a coach that fit, that has previous head coaching experience, and that could be able to make these. Because remember, Ricky, and another thing is this, Ricky, and this is what's so mind-blowing to me. At press conferences, like the Mississippi State press conference, for example, Sam Pittman was asked the question about why did you choose to call a timeout and punt on the 4th and 1? And I think the ball was like inside the 30, or they took a delay game, something like that. It was like inside Mississippi State's 30-something yard line. Cam Little could have kicked the field goal, and he didn't even choose to kick a field goal. And Sam Pittman's response was, "Well, I didn't know what to do." I don't want my head coach to tell the media I don't know what to do. That's very bad, very, very bad. So I don't think it's a great decision. But Hunter Yurchek is very popular, and I think Hunter Yurchek. If Hunter Yurchek makes the right decision, Sam Pittman wins 8 or 9 games next year, I'm going to be just as happy, and I will say I was wrong. But I just don't think it's going to happen, and I think this is a bad, bad decision.
So Brett Bielema was there 5 years, Brad. He went 3-9, 7-6, 8-5, 7-6, 4-8. That was the years of under Brett Bielema. And then, of course, we know how terrible the Chad Morris years were underneath there. And so, anyways, yeah, because I wanted to look that up because I'm like, I'm pretty sure he coached 5 years. So, one of the things I think we also tend to forget is Jeff Long himself, whenever he came out and said why he would not fire Brett Bielema to begin with, was because he promised Brett Bielema 6 years. Yeah. And I am all for giving a coach time. I'm all for giving a coach time. We look at the Houston Nutt years, Brad. Houston, let's see here. Houston Nutt was there from '98 all the way through 2007.
Yep.
And the one thing that really hurt Houston Nutt was we started seeing all these inconsistencies. Now hold it, because that was also a different time. Frank Broyles was underneath it. We were underneath Frank Broyles, um, and all that other kind of stuff. Um, and then Bob Petrino comes along, and Bob Petrino basically took us to the level that were expected Houston to take us to, and it just didn't happen. Well, since then we've done nothing. We've basically done nothing in between those years. We've had a couple of good years, but nothing, nothing really huge. Sam Pittman comes along, and I understand the 2020 season. I wholeheartedly understand the 2020 season with COVID, everything like that. That was just something that was totally unexpected, and I get all that. In 2021, Brad, we won 9 games. We
Mm-hmm.
were 8-4. We were 8-4 in the regular season, and we won. Brad, I will never forget. I will never forget the moment. My wife and I, and we took this other couple to I think it was the Arkansas Texas game, because Pepsi had given me tickets, and we ended up going up there. And this was right before we started doing. This is right before we started doing the podcast. And um, I remember that Texas game so clearly, because we dominated so much on both sides of the football, and the fan base was all for it. We were all behind it. I remember I didn't go down on the field. I had left before that even happened. But 100 Yard Check's like, hey, bring them on down. This is what we've been waiting for. And that was the moment that we said, okay, Arkansas football is back. We're going to be fine. And then the last 2 seasons, we went 6-6 last year with a 3-5 conference record. Lost games we shouldn't have lost to, and this year it's even worse. And I understand the COVID year, but when you go 7-6, and it looks like we're going to finish 4-8, um, with the talent that we've had. Like I said, I get it. I understand it. I get it, and
Yeah.
I respect Tony Yurchek's decision, but I fully disagree with it. I'm in the same boat that you're in. I think we should move on. I thought we should have moved on. I don't. I think this is premature of him being able to say, okay, let's keep him around another year and see what happens. If you look at the trend, Brad, the trend is going down. It's not going up.
Right.
Now it's like you said before. If we end up winning, 8 or 9 games next year, hey, that's great, fine, dandy, whatever the whole 9 yards may be. But we need to do a lot better. We need to see significant improvement. Going 6-6, Brad, is not going to be significant improvement next year. I don't care who's the coach. So I really feel like for me to comfortably say Sam Pittman after next year, for me to comfortably say it, he needs to win 7 or 8 games in the regular season next year. And the reason I say that is the conference is going to be much different. It's going to be a much different atmosphere. And like I said, let me look at Arkansas' schedule for
Yeah, that's what
next year.
I'm looking at it right now. So Arkansas, if you want to look at it, is they got UAPB at War Memorial. They
Yeah,
go
that's
to
that's going to be a nothing game. We'll win that 100-0.
they go to at Oklahoma State.
That's
Then
not going to be easy.
no, it's not. You got UAB. Then
That's a winnable game,
you got Texas A&M.
and that should be the last. That should be the last game on the 10-year contract.
That is, and then you got Louisiana Tech, and then of
And
course you get, go ahead.
that would be awful. That would be awful if we lose to La Tech.
And then we get LSU, Ole Miss, Tennessee, Texas, at Auburn, at Mississippi State, and at Missouri to close out the season. The other one, well, all those are TBA games after the La Tech game. The La Tech date has been
Right.
scheduled. The other ones are TBA, but still, it's a schedule that is 8 or 9 wins winnable. It could, because you get Tennessee at
So
home, you get this at home, you get LSU at home, you got yeah. I mean, a lot of
so
your top
here's
at
I'm
home.
gonna be scratching my and here's the thing, I'm gonna scratch my head on this, Brad. Let
Mm-hmm.
me think here. Is Thanksgiving? Because see, we're playing the 23rd next year. Let me look at 2024's calendar.
Yeah, Thanksgiving I think a little bit later next year.
Is it the 28th next year? That Thursday the 28th?
I believe so. It is the 28th. Yes.
Okay. I said scratching my head there. I'm like, wait a minute. This is a whole year from now. We're playing La Tech on a Saturday. Usually we play on Black Friday. But anyway, um,
Leap year.
so and so if I were to sit here, Brad, there's three guaranteed wins on here. We're not losing to UAPB, Brad. It's not happening. If we lost to UAPB and Seb Pittman wasn't fired before he even got off the sidelines,
Yeah.
something's not right.
Yeah.
I mean, no, we're not losing to UAPB. It's not
Well,
happening.
Ricky, what I would have done, I would after that type of loss, I would say, hey, Sam, just go to Lake Hamilton. Go to your retirement home, Lake Hamilton. You're done.
And it's a closer drive.
Exactly. It's beautiful.
It, Brad, I've got some friends who I got well, it's a friend that I bowled with. Um, her daughter goes to Oklahoma State.
Yeah.
Brad, Brad, we may look at taking a road trip next year to Stillwater.
It's not far. It's not far. It's
It's
not
not
bad.
far. Let's see here. Let me look at the map. Let's see here from where I'm at. Of course, I know it's going to be a little bit. It's probably about the same for you. Let's see here. Stillwater. It's almost a 6-hour drive if you go from Little Rock. Or if you go from here. If you go from Little Rock, let's see here. Yeah, right, a little bit over 5 hours.
Yeah.
So Brad, we may have to look into that. We might have to look at going to Stillwater next year.
I would
That's
love
the
to.
week. That's the September the 7th. That is the Saturday before my birthday. My birthday's on the 10th. My birthday, I think, is on a Wednesday next year.
Yeah. Oh wow.
The 8th. No, hang on. See, 7th is on a Saturday. 8th is on a Sunday. No, Tuesday. It'll be on a Tuesday next year. So yeah, we may circle that one. We may have to take a road trip next year, and that's probably something me and you should start doing a little bit more. I think we need to take a couple of road trips each year,
I think so.
but
I get five.
especially
I get 5 Sundays off a year. So there you go.
you get 5 Sundays off a year.
I do.
So does that include like if you have a guest speaker or anything like that, or is it just like that's how many Sundays you get total?
Yeah, I think maybe Sundays I get total off.
And y'all do Sunday night service too, don't you?
No, no,
Do what?
no, we don't.
So you have to do 47 sermons a year.
47. Well, if you count my volunteer work at the prison, and of course, if I do funerals and stuff, I'm still probably averaging around 60, 100. Well, over 100 sermons still.
Yeah, but that's the prison. Is that that I'm talking about the church. I'm talking about the church. Yeah, I would just say the church schedule.
Right.
Anyway. So which prison are you volunteering at?
Garland County.
Oh, okay. All right. Yeah, you about to say you may see my cousin, the lawyer, come up there between here and now and there. I don't know how far up she goes, but
Mm-hmm.
anyways, yeah, that might be one of the games we need to circle. I would say we'd go to Arlington, but their tickets are super expensive.
Let me ask you this, Ricky. So we talked about the football thing, and um, Trey Biddy, I thought, brought up a good point about the money. If the money is an issue for Arkansas, we just saw a school pay $76 million. By the time Texas A&M gets done paying out all the coaches, it could cost them up to $150 million, close to that, or 120, $150 million to pay out all those coaches, or I mean, the buyouts for all those coaches. I mean, that is
Yes, but
insane. I think that's
yes,
stupid.
but their boosters though are
Oh yeah.
filthy, wealthy, dude.
Oh yeah.
Oh my
Oh yeah.
gosh. I don't I don't know all the boosters that Arkansas has or anything like that, but they don't have near the money Texas A&M does.
Oh no, I wouldn't say they have near the money. But my thing is, Ricky, is if money was an issue to paying out a $16 million deal, buying out a $16 million contract, which, oh, by the way, that was a contract that was negotiated after that 9-win season. And that was after Hunter Yurchek made the comment that he didn't really believe in buyouts, and that sort of thing. But I think the reason why Hunter Yurchek went ahead and gave um, Sam Pittman a buyout was, number one, all the other ADs were still doing buyouts for coaches. And number two, in that contract for Sam Pittman, it says that Sam Pittman cannot leave for another job, actually. It cannot pursue other jobs. So the thing about it is, if I can't pursue other jobs, I need to have something in return too. That would be my personal opinion on that. But anyway, Ricky, so if that was the case, if Arkansas can't afford to pay out buy out Sam Pittman's contract, should we even be competing in the SEC?
That's a good question.
Yeah, I mean,
But here's the thing: we would be stupid to leave the SEC though.
well, yeah,
Like
I agree with that. I'm not saying, and I don't think Trey Biddy is saying we should leave the SEC, and I'm not saying we should leave the SEC. I think what he's trying to say is if we can't afford to buy out a $16 million contract, where you got contracts like at Alabama, obviously bigger schools, but even some of these other schools like Kentucky, I think Mark Stoops' contract is pretty up there as far as buyout. Josh Heupel's contract, I think, is pretty up there too. I think what he's trying to say is this: if we can't afford to buy out, or we're not going to pony up the money, we might want to consider competing somewhere else, because we're not ever going to be able to compete in the SEC. I think that's the issue.
yeah, I mean, yeah, that's the thing. I mean, they do. There's that saying: you got in order to make money, you got to spend money. I mean,
Yeah,
why not? Why not? Why not? I mean, I'm not saying go get the guy, but if you're not willing to go, pay out kind of money like you would like an Urban Meyer or something like that, then what's the point of even competing? I mean, that's just the thing though. I mean, we're
yeah,
not there, and that's I get it, because I mean we're not there, but I mean it's still though.
yeah.
I'm tired of being. But here's the thing, Brad. I'm tired of being less than mediocrity. We are less than mediocrity right now.
Well, and I think for you and Ricky, I think you fall in this line like me, has sane Arkansas fans. I think if we average 6 to 8 wins a year on a normal year, I think we'd be pretty satisfied. Would you say 6 to 8 wins on average?
I mean, yeah, but it would also depend,
Yeah, well, I know that, and
like this year.
right, and I
We
get
sh-
that.
there's no way in hell we should have lost to Mississippi State.
Well, and I agree with that. And I'm not saying, because there's going to be some years where we have more talent than other years, and we're going to be saying, okay, this team should win 10 or 11 games, because
Right.
winning 11 games is not as difficult like it used to be, because you play a 12-game schedule. I mean, so you can do that these days, and so there's going to be seasons like that. Of course, look at Bobby Petrino had 2 straight 10-win seasons. I mean, and that can be done. What I'm just trying to say is, if we just average 6 to 8 wins a year, and that was the average, I think most fans would be okay with that. I think the
Mhm.
problem is we haven't had a coach since Houston Nutt or Bobby Petrino to even get us close to those averages per se. I mean, you look at Sam Pittman, like I said, this year, I think it's probably one of the worst coaching jobs besides Chad Morris, which Chad Morris was not even a coach. But I think it's one of the worst coaching jobs all time in Arkansas history. I mean, I hate to say that, but with the talent that we had this year, Ricky, there's no way we should have been less than 7 to 8 wins. No way.
No, no way, no way. And so, but yeah, I agree with you. I think I think that is definitely that's definitely doable. Um, I mean, I don't think we should get like Nebraska when Bo Pelini had so many 9, 10 win seasons in a row. I don't. As a matter of fact, he never had anything less than 9 wins. They fired him. How many winning
Yeah,
seasons have had since?
Yep.
One. They had one winning season since they fired Bo Pelini in 2014. And
And
I don't know. I don't know if Matt Rule's the answer, but I've been told fans really love that guy.
I think Matt Rule, it's going to take him some time. I mean, it took him time at Baylor and Temple. I mean, I think the first year at Temple, they only won one game. And then the rest of the time, he had great success at Temple. And then at Baylor, I think they were like 3-9 there his first year. And then they consistently built up. And that's when they won the conference, I believe, his last year and went to the Sugar Bowl. And he went to the NFL. So, I mean, it's going to take time for Matt Rule. And well, of course, if they do beat Iowa this Friday, they are bowl eligible. So, I mean, they will get the 6 wins, but they got to beat Iowa to do it. But I don't know if they're going to do that or not. Although it is Iowa. Iowa can't score against a high school team, it seems like. But anyway, but the point is, I think, like you're right. If we got to the point where we were like Bo Pelini situation where we were consistently winning 9 games. And I think this is where Tyler Honeysuckle gets his he reminds fans, Penn State fans, about James Franklin consistently winning 9, 10 games and everything else. If we're the same way, I agree. We shouldn't fire our coach because I mean you're not going to get anybody better. I think the only difference with Penn State compared to Arkansas is the fans at Penn State, the boosters at Penn State, probably considers Penn State more of an elite team compared to Arkansas, which is probably right here.
There are two jobs, Brad, that in the entire football world, college football, there are two jobs every coach wants and doesn't get. Penn State's one of them. The other one's Notre Dame.
Yeah.
For whatever reason, of course, you and I both know Notre Dame football is not near as dominant and prominent as what they once were, but it's
No.
still a prestigious program. It's just
Well,
so it's just so
they
good. But
money. They got that NBC money. I mean, they got an exclusive contract to NBC. I mean, they got that money. And then with Penn State, they have a talent-rich state right there in Pennsylvania. I mean, they got Ohio State that borders them. They border Maryland, that Washington D.C. area. They're close to New York, so it's a talent. There's all sorts of talent around Penn State in Pennsylvania and their territory. It's just the problem with Penn State. I think the problem with fans have with James Franklin is you've got to get over the hump of Ohio State and Michigan. You have to do so. And the fact is, he's 1-15, 1-17, I think, against top 5 teams. I think that's another thing that no Penn State is thinking that should be much, much better than that. I mean, John Cooper, the famous Ohio State head coach, which this is a little bit of comparison, but not really. But John Cooper, I think, had so many 10-win seasons in a row and had Ohio State in the top 5 within that time. But his one problem was he couldn't beat Michigan. He went 2-10-1. And because he went 2-10-1, guess what? He was shown the door. So,
yeah, we were talking about Ohio State, Michigan on ATFS last night. And one thing Jacob brought up, he really thinks Ryan Day is going to be on the hot seat if they lose to Michigan for a third year in a row.
well, have you heard the rumor about Ryan Day?
Uh-uh.
There's smoke around saying that Ryan Day, that Texas A&M is going after Ryan Day.
Would you leave Ohio State for Texas A&M though?
Well, you can get a good payday, and if they're still stupid about signing contracts, I mean, look at Jimbo Fisher; he's getting a nice buyout and get paid 27 million or get paid $9 million a year, not the coach for the next few years. So
I'm gonna tell you why I'm gonna tell you why I want him there. I can't stand the dude. Like I just can't.
uh,
I just there's something about him. It just makes me want to punch his face. I don't know what it is, but there's
but
something about him. Do what?
I wouldn't leave Ohio State for Texas A&M if I was him. No, but
I wouldn't. Hey, because I'm gonna tell you this right now. If he leaves Ohio State for Texas A&M, I'm gonna give Jacob all kinds of nonsense on it. Oh goodness, I hope it
you might as
happens.
well.
I really hope it happens.
So I do agree with that. If Ryan Day loses to Michigan for the third year in a row, there's going to be some people looking for his head at Ohio State. I mean, that just one thing don't do is lose to Michigan.
Right. And of course, right now, if you look at the college football playoff standings, there could be so many ways you could. There's a scenario, Brad, where two Pac-12 teams could get in, and the
Yeah,
Pac-12 is about to dissolve. I mean,
yeah.
it's just so bad. So I want to ask you a question, and this is something we also discussed on ATFS yesterday. I just want to get your opinion on it. Does the Pac-12 survive? Can Oregon State and Washington State, who are the last two teams left, can they survive the Pac-12? Can they rebuild the Pac-12 to where it will survive?
No, I don't think. I don't think so. I
That's
think.
all I wanted to hear.
Yeah. Well, all I'm going to say is this: the only way they survive is if the Mountain West makes a merger with them, and I think that's probably going to be the logical thing, and they turn it into the Pac because the Pac or Pac something conference. I don't
The
know how many.
Pac West,
Yeah, Pac West because
the
the
Mountain Pac.
right because they probably have the money and the resources and the name brand, but that's the only way it survives. It's probably just the name itself only.
So, but here's the thing though, Brad, and this is something that I argued with yesterday.
Mhm.
What leverage does Oregon State and Washington State have?
None, just the name. That's
None.
it. That's all they have. Is
Exactly. Exactly. And so that's I was wondering your opinion. I was just wondering your opinion. An Arkansas team that is going bowling is Arkansas State. Let's shout out to that. Um, let's see here. Arkansas and Stanford are tied at 42. So let's see here. Arkansas State under Butch Jones, which I was very. I think I need to look up and see what. Let me see what I had their record going because, like I said, we did this. Which because, like I said, we were
and,
doing. We were still transitioning, Brad. But there's a website we're going to use next year where we're going to predict the entire season. I mean, it's good. I need to see what I
well,
had.
well. Here, what I would say about this: how ironic if you told me this year that it was Sam Pittman that would be on the hot seat rather than Butch Jones, I would have laughed at you because
Yeah, I know.
especially after the Oklahoma game where Butch Jones is literally crying on the sidelines out and get beat 70 to what was 77, 77 to 7 about that. It was horrible.
73, 73, 77. It was something. It was bad.
It was horrible. It was horrible. And so for them to go
Well,
bowl,
here's the thing. Well, here's the thing. They found a quarterback. They found a
yes.
quarterback, and it worked.
Yeah.
Let's see here. I predicted. Now this is something else though, Brad. So at the beginning of the season, I had South Alabama coming out of the division, and they went well below expectations. There was a lot of expectations that they could win, that they could outright win the Sun Belt, and they didn't do it. Um, let's see here. Let's see here. Let me look at this. I
Not
had
compared.
Arkansas. I had Arkansas State going 6-6. Let me
Okay.
see here.
They'll be 6 or 6 to 5 right now with Marshall.
I think let me look at their okay. So let's look at their real schedule real quick. I want to compare. Um, oh, that's basketball, not football. What am I doing?
I'm looking at their schedule too right now.
NCAA. All right, so let's look at their schedule real
No, they lost.
quick.
Oh yeah, they lost 73 to nothing to Oklahoma, and on top of that, what was worse is the very next week they lost to Memphis 37-3.
Yes,
That,
they got beat pretty bad, but they found a quarterback and it worked. Okay, Brad. So you've got the schedule pulled up, right?
yep,
Okay. I had them losing to Oklahoma and Memphis. I had them beating Stony Brook. How did they do against Southern Mississippi?
they beat Southern Mississippi.
Got that right.
They beat.
UMass. I know they beat UMass. Did they beat Troy?
They lost to Troy.
I got that right. Coastal Carolina.
They lost to Coastal Carolina.
They beat both Louisiana schools, correct?
They beat both Louisiana schools. Yep.
South Alabama,
Lost a close one to them.
Texas State.
Beat Texas State, obviously. Um,
That's right.
Had a,
That's right. That's right. So what if I were to tell you if they lose to Marshall this coming Saturday, I would have correctly predicted every game Arkansas State played this year.
that is awesome.
I'm dead serious. I'm
Wow.
looking at it right now. I'm dead serious. I had them going 6-6, going to a bowl game. But here's the thing. Here's the thing though, Brett. And this is where push comes to shove. I had South Alabama going 8-4. Let me see. Let me look at the standings real quick.
Yeah, they're 6-5.
Because I did not have James Madison coming out on top like they did. I knew they were going to be good, but I didn't think they were going to be good. I didn't think they were going to be that good. Let's see here. So let me see here. So I have South Alabama winning the conference, going 8-4 overall. I had Troy going 9-3 overall and losing one conference game.
They could do that.
Troy, they could do that if they lose this week. The only problem is I think their last game's a conference game, so I would have not have
Yeah,
lost that either. But I mean, yeah, but Arkansas State, I would have correctly predicted every game for Arkansas State. Now, Arkansas, let's go to Arkansas.
well, here's the thing, Ricky, on that real quick. You could definitely do that because Marshall will be fighting for bowl eligibility themselves this Saturday. So it's a motivating game for them. So, and I
Guess
know
what?
they're
You
conference.
you won't you won't guess what I had Marshall going.
You had them going under 500.
11-1.
Oh, wow.
Big time, big time. All right, let's see here. I know I'm wrong about the West in the SEC because I had LSU going undefeated. I had high expectations for LSU, but I will say the one thing I'm very proud of, I did have Missouri going 10-2.
And they could do that if they beat Arkansas.
I had them, and here's the thing, I had them losing to LSU and Georgia, and they lost to both LSU and Georgia. I had them beating everybody else.
Yep. That,
So
but that
yeah,
would be,
I had some correct predictions this year.
there you go. There you go. I mean, it's interesting to see this because this has been a wacky season and everything else. And like you say, LSU, I think. Here's another question I would say to you, Ricky. Obviously, A&M's going to be going to Baton Rouge. LSU should be favored in that game. If
They are
LSU, okay, if LSU loses, does Brian Kelly go into next season in the hot seat?
probably so.
I
Um,
would too.
So he's almost in a similar situation that Arkansas is in. The only difference is he brought back way more talent than what we have. Um,
Yeah,
so yeah, I had high expectations for LSU this year. I thought LSU was going to outright win it all. I
yeah,
mean, if you look at the roster, you look at the returning starters. Of course, they were not up there as far as returning, progress as like Michigan or anything like that. But they had quite a bit of returning starters, coming back this year at super high expectations. Um,
yeah,
and so especially with the way that they shocked us last year with what they did basically with what they did. Now I will say this much: I still think Billy Napier needs to be on the hot seat. Um,
yeah. Especially if he loses now. If he beats Florida State, somehow it's going to be the battle of backup quarterbacks because Florida lost their starter and FSU lost their starter too. And the game is at the Swamp. So there's a chance that Florida has. In rivalries, you have to throw out the records, obviously. And so if Florida does beat um, Florida State, it'll alleviate some of that pressure, but he'll probably have to win the bowl game to show some improvement because, last year he went 6-7. If he wins the bowl, he would go 7-6. But definitely year three is going to be the year because Florida has a very highly touted recruiting class. It's ranked number 3 in the country right now. So the guy can recruit. We'll give him that. But he's definitely going to have to make some changes. Number one, he needs an offensive coordinator. He needs to quit calling plays. That's number one. Number two, he actually needs a special teams coach. He special teams for Florida has been abysmal the last couple of years, and he needs a special teams coach. And number three, he needs to get a better defensive coordinator. The guy is not cutting it for Florida as the defensive coordinator there. He's not cutting it at all. He needs to find somebody that actually has SEC experience in that position, not bring one of his guys from Louisiana Lafayette into that position. So anyway, I think that's the changes that Billy Napier needs to make. They got a tough schedule. So let me show you Florida's schedule real quick before they because they have a heck of a schedule. One second, getting that right now. So Florida's football schedule. It's loading. Just 1 second. Sorry. And here we are. So Florida's football schedule is loading that now. Let's see here. So here we go. So they open the city season with Miami at the Swamp. Then they get Stanford. Then they have to play UCF. Of course, they get Georgia. They have Florida State. Then they have Kentucky, LSU, Ole Miss, Texas A&M, at Mississippi State, Tennessee, and they go to Texas.
Oh, yeah, it's not looking good.
That's a brutal.
I didn't like the hire to begin with. I just never thought he would fit there.
Well, thing about it is, I think as more he has been there, the more we're seeing that now. I think the thing about it is he had so much success at Louisiana Lafayette. You know, he deserved a shot. Now, maybe he should have went to Florida, but he might should have went to like a, you know, what I know it's not open. It wouldn't have been open, but Kentucky, or he probably should have went to a Mississippi State. There you go, or something like that before going.
Somewhere with less expectations.
Yeah, exactly. So anyway, yeah, that's a very brutal schedule if you look at that for Billy Napier in year three. Now, like I said, the good news is this year they played a lot of freshmen. They played a lot of younger players, and they're going to get more talent in and younger next year. And of course, no, we don't know what the transfer portal will bring in for them either. But yeah, Billy Napier, he definitely needs to make a splash, or yeah, he's going to be looking for another job, and Florida's going to be looking for another coach once again. So,
unfortunately, yeah, like I said, Florida has way too high of expectations for a guy like him, and so I don't get it. I didn't like the hire. Okay, let's transition to basketball right now if we want to.
do we want
Let's
to?
see. Yeah, I guess so. There's really not a whole lot more to talk about when it comes to
No.
Football, especially because, like I said, rivalry week, we've got some games to predict here in a little bit. Arkansas down by 1, 48-47 with 7:40 left in the game. So we'll see. They're at an official TV timeout right now. Let's see here. Of course, this team is still basically a brand new team from last year, Brad. They've got a lot of things to figure out. So I mean, even they're going to lose early. Even if they do lose early, be patient with them, guys. I mean, I have no expectations for them. I just don't. I know they can shoot like crazy. But I have no expectations for them.
I think that the issue right now for Arkansas, which I know you would think Musselman will eventually figure this out, because the NBA is this way, is they're having a problem with high ball screens. Now, they can't guard the high ball screen right now, and UNC Greensboro just absolutely killed them with the high ball screen, and of course, they lost that game, and so Arkansas under Musselman has had issues early in the season, obviously, and usually later on they get caught on once he starts meshing the team together and everything else. So I'm not too concerned. However, losing to UNC Greensboro is not the greatest thing in the world to start your season off.
No.
And of course, you're losing to Stanford. Now, if Arkansas does win this game, interestingly enough, they would play Memphis in the next round of the Battle of Atlantis. So I would love to see Arkansas win this game to see a Memphis Arkansas matchup, which would be an old school rivalry and a team that Arkansas hasn't played in a long, long time. So anyway, but I think Arkansas is going to be okay. I do agree. We need to be patient with them. But I will say this. I hope Arkansas does get it figured out pretty soon so that way they can have some momentum going into conference play. But again, I don't expect anything less than Arkansas making it to the NCAA tournament. I think they'll make the tournament again. And I think, I don't know if they'll make the second weekend or not. I'm not going to make that judgment yet, but they're at least going to be a tournament team, which, I think that's a good thing compared to what we were at basketball at one time. And so I think that's the expectation is for them to make the tournament and then to kind of, go and go on from there. So, but I do think Arkansas will figure things out. But again, it's going to take some time.
We have a slew of seniors this year, Brad, and that's always one thing that does help out. The only difference is, though, is a lot of these seniors, we've seen some of them come out, like Debo Davis. We've seen him. We've seen him play quite a bit. Mekhi Mitchell, we've seen him play quite a bit. But some of these other guys that have come in, we haven't seen play as much. So I think it's just going to be a matter of them just figuring each other out. And I think eventually they will. I see them being a tournament team at least.
Yeah.
I don't see them not making the tournament, but and I need to look at how recruiting is going to go for next season. Because like I said, I don't know how well recruiting is going to be for next season. Usually Musselman knows how to recruit. If he doesn't recruit well, he goes to the transfer portal and makes up for it. So yeah, it's like I said, I don't expect them to win it all or anything like that. I don't expect this team to be a Final Four team. But like I said, I expect them to compete. And like I said, losing to a team like UNC Greensboro, you learn lessons when you lose. You don't learn too many lessons when you win big. And
Yeah.
that UNC Greensboro team, if I'm not mistaken, they played Vanderbilt very, very close, but Vanderbilt sucks. So that's not saying a whole lot.
Well, but let's just put it this way, Ricky. Like you say, usually if he either recruits well or he goes through transfer portal, and this team is made up of transfers this year, and so it's going to take its time to mesh with the system he has and mesh with the players and stuff. And obviously, with Musselman has some players that are coming back this year that were injured last year, like Brazil. He comes back, and of course, Mitchell's played a lot. Debo Davis has played a lot. But he's got some transfers in there as well. And of course, with Musselman, eventually he'll have that rotation short to 7 to 8 man rotations, which I don't know about you. I don't know if you like this or not. Do you like the shorter rotations, or would you rather for him to have kind of a system like Mike Anderson, Nolan had, where they played 10, 12 players? I mean, what's your thoughts on that?
Well, I mean, it's like you said, it's all based on what type of a system. Nolan Richardson was all about running up and down the floor, pressing, ball pressure, things like that. Eric Musselman's is a lot different. It's a lot different that so his system adjusts to that 7-8 man rotation, and especially if you get guys going. Like if you start getting guys going, you're not going to rotate very much. Now, and one thing I have noticed with him is when he notices that the guys aren't getting going, he may reach down to that 9, 10, 11 spot at times. And so, like I said, he'll definitely give him a chance. I mean, that's definitely that's definitely something he'll do.
Well, I think that's also too what plays into these early games as well. He's trying to figure out his rotation that he's going to have going into SEC play, the 7 to 8 man rotation and stuff. But of course, last year he had to dig a little bit deeper because he had all those injuries. Excuse me, with Arkansas and everything else. So he had to dig a little bit deeper past the 7 to 8 man rotation that he really wanted. So I think Ricky, and we just missed a free throw, but I think Ricky, it's one of those things that I think eventually he'll settle on that 7 or 8 man rotation. We'll get it going, and we'll be okay. And I think that's what these early games is about. To be honest with you, is to see where we're going, what 7 or 8 men we're going to have in this rotation going forward. So I think that's where we are at right now. So we just need to be patient with it. But again, I would love to see Arkansas win this game. I mean, I really would because, like I said, the reason why is because I like to see Memphis play Arkansas, kind of recreate that old school rivalry matchup that Arkansas had with Memphis back in the 90s, because that was some classic games. And of course, Penny Hardaway has even made public comments that he would like to have the rivalry back. I mean, so hopefully that's something that Arkansas and Memphis can get in terms with, that they can get the rivalry back where they're playing each other. So,
Absolutely, absolutely. All right, Brad.
go
As
ahead.
promised, you're good. As promised, I'm going to preview Wichita State real quick, um, and then we will get to our picks and DAs of the week. So Nate, I'm going to like I said, I'm going to bring up Wichita State anytime we talk about basketball. I'm going to do my best to bring up Wichita State and kind of preview where they're going. So one thing about Wichita State that we really need to focus in on. They have a brand new coach. This can be a good thing, but this could also be a very bad thing.
Oh,
Usually,
yeah.
when new coaches come in, they have something they prove. And this guy's young. He's energetic. I think he's the right man for the job. I don't remember his name right off the top of my head.
I'm looking.
So I'm gonna look early at this, Brad. They've got a couple of guards at Colby Rogers and Xavier Bell. I know Colby's. I think they're both juniors. Yes, they are both juniors. Um, Xavier Bell, I think that is his birthplace is Wichita, Kansas. So yeah, so shout out to that. Um, and so that they are the leading scorers. They only have 3 players in double-digit scoring, which is not unusual for a college basketball team. They've got a forward from Sweden named Kenny. I think Poda. I don't know how you pronounce his last name. Pohto. What's
P.O.
Swedish for Pudo? I don't know.
Well,
I don't. I'm not making fun of the guy or anything like that, but I'm just saying in general. And so, yeah, he's a pretty big guy at 6'11", and so he does pretty well. Now I will say this, I will say this much: they need to shoot the ball a little bit better. 46.9% is not bad right now, for right now per se, but they do shoot 71% at the free throw line. And this big guy here, he's got to get better. He only shoots 63%, so I think they need to get the free throw shooting going. Obviously, defensively, they're not bad. If you look at their schedule so far, Brad, Wichita State is 5-1. Their one loss was against Liberty. It was a pretty bad loss at home. It was a 17-point loss at home. Um, let's see, they've beaten Lipscomb, Western Kentucky, Friends University. That must be a D3 school. I've never heard of them. Um, Friends University. Okay, uh, they did beat they did beat Coastal Carolina at Coastal Carolina, um, and then they beat St. Louis. And of course, beating St. Louis is pretty good. St. Louis is a traditional basketball powerhouse,
yeah,
especially for the mid majors. So but here's the thing though, they've got a very tough schedule coming up ahead. Norfolk State's not going to be an easy game. They are well known for a tournament team, and if I'm not mistaken, they beat Duke one year.
they did.
Um, the Richmond Spiders, you never know with them. They're an in-season team. They're not much of a tournament team. They do go to Missouri. Missouri's not that great, but they're going to be a lot better this year than what they were. South Dakota State, Southern Illinois should be wins, and then the meat of your schedule comes in right before you start conference play. And so I think they were picked 7th to get in the American. I think that's actually very accurate, considering that you do have to play Florida Atlantic. Florida Atlantic, you have to play, and they have to play Florida Atlantic twice. That's going to
Yeah.
suck. That Florida Atlantic team is stacked. Um, but you do
Well,
have you do have some other good teams in there. Brad, Memphis, SMU is going to be pretty good this year. I'm trying to see here on some other teams that are supposed to be pretty good. Of course, North Texas is going to be right there in the middle. I don't think they're going to be that great. Of course, I've already mentioned SMU. East Carolina is supposed to be okay. Um, let's see here. UAB is usually pretty good, and of course, you know who the head coach is for UAB, don't you?
I forgot. Oh no, Andy Kennedy. Andy
Andy
Kennedy.
Kennedy. Andy
Exactly.
Kennedy.
That's his alma
And
mater.
they've got Tulane. They picked Tulane third, and I'm pretty sure they picked FAU to win it all. I'm trying to see if they picked second. Memphis. They have Memphis getting second in the conference this year. Um, so like I said, Nate, it's going to be an interesting basketball season. I expect them to have a winning record. It's going to be tough. Don't know if they'll make the tournament this year, maybe in NIT. But like I said, with a young team like this, uh, would it surprise me if they get third or fourth in the conference? No. And this is not an easy conference. Let,
No,
let
it's not.
let's put it this way: the American Athletic Conference is not an easy conference whatsoever. And so we'll see what happens between now and then.
Obviously, so the head coach for Wichita State is Paul Mills. Paul Mills was Paul Mills was previously at Oral Roberts. Um, he
Yes,
He led them to the Sweet 16 in 2020, 2021. That's the year that Arkansas beat them in the Sweet 16, I believe, when Arkansas went to the Elite Eight and lost to Duke eventually. And Oral Roberts last year won their conference and was undefeated in the Summit Conference and lost in the first round of the NCAA tournament. So he does have experience in a winning pedigree. It's so interesting about Wichita because Wichita basketball in Kansas is usually probably second behind the University of Kansas. I mean, you could make an argument for Kansas State per se. I mean, but Wichita does have a pretty decent tradition when it comes to basketball. If you look at their history, and one year they did beat Kansas in the NCAA tournament. If you remember
I'll
that
never
year,
forget that.
yep. And so this year, Kansas is facing Wichita, the Shockers. And that game, I believe, is on December 30th. And it's going to be in Kansas City, that game is. So it's going to be a neutral site game per se and everything else. But, I mean, Kansas is actually reaching out and playing Wichita State. So I do salute Bill Self for doing that, for scheduling that game and everything else. Um, I'm kind of with you, Ricky. The American is a very tough conference. You know, you got Memphis in that conference. You have SMU that's been pretty good in recent years. UAB is usually a pretty decent basketball, has a pretty decent basketball tradition as well. Um, the thing about it is, if you look at their schedule, they play both Kansas schools. So they play Kansas State. That's going to be that's going to be in Kansas City. And the other one, they play Kansas, and that game is going to be, both of those games are in Kansas City. So they play both Kansas State and Kansas at Kansas City this year. So that's gonna be very interesting. So they play both Kansas schools, but of course Temple's also in that conference, which Temple hasn't been as good in recent years, but still Temple, in that Philadelphia area, got to watch out for them as well. So and of course Memphis, I would probably say Florida Atlantic and Memphis could be the two favorites in that conference, especially Florida Atlantic because they pretty much returned everybody from last year's Final Four team. But I can see Wichita being within that top four, top five tier. I know you said they were picked seventh, but I could definitely see them being top four, top five, just missing the NCAA tournament, being on that bubble and not making it and going to the NIT. That's where I kind of see Wichita State as. But I always like Wichita State for some sort of reason. And I have a soft spot for them during basketball season. When I see them playing, I always root for them for some reason. I guess because it got Wichita, I don't know. But I think Wichita does have I think they're going to have a good season. I just don't see them going to the NCAA tournament. I got them like you. I think they'll make the NIT.
Let's see here. I know FAU made the tournament last year. I think they were the only team in the conference who made the tournament last year. I don't think they really gave a whole lot of
Well,
thought to the American Conference last year.
FAU, no, FAU was in the Conference USA still, I think, last year because they beat
You might be
UAB
right.
and they beat UAB in the Conference USA championship. Andy Kennedy had UAB all the way. I think if I'm not mistaken, I think UAB won the NIT last year. If I'm not
You might
mistaken.
be right. You might
Um,
be right. I'll have to look that up.
so it'll be interesting. Of course, UAB Andy Kennedy always has his teams pretty coached up, pretty good. Um, even when he was at Ole Miss, when they weren't really winning, they were still pesky, and so UAB always causes fits. Um, but but yeah, anyway. But UAB um, is another
North
team.
Texas. North Texas beat UAB in the championship.
Okay, I knew they were in the finals. I can't remember if they won it or not. But yeah, so I mean, it's a pretty decent conference this year. But I think Memphis, if I'm not mistaken, Memphis made the tournament. Houston was the other team that was in AA, but now they're in the Big 12. Houston.
36 seconds left. Arkansas's down by 2. Stanford just called a timeout with 36 seconds left.
There you go. Great drama
So
there.
there is a possibility Arkansas is not going to come out of this.
Now, which again, this is where Arkansas fans got to be patient
Yep.
because it's late season, and Arkansas usually once they get their rotation down, that's when you see Arkansas start making their run and everything else. And so that's what Arkansas fans got to realize. So
Yep. 36.6 seconds left. Stanford has a timeout. Arkansas is down 57-55. Arkansas has not shot the ball well at all this game. Let me look at the team stats real quick.
I think they're barely over 30% shooting, if I'm not mistaken.
Yeah, 29%. One thing that's helped them though, Brad, they've went to the free throw line 21 times versus 9 to Stanford.
That's what's going to be Arkansas's game. Dribble drive. That's Arkansas's game. Dribble drive. Get to the free throw line.
Yeah, they've shot the ball very well. Here's the thing: they've out rebounded Stanford. They have less turnovers. They can't shoot the ball.
Yeah.
And this was a team. This is a team who has shot the ball decently well to start the game. Let's see what they do here. They wrapped him up and they're gonna call foul. That was a good call. Debo let him cross his face. That was a stupid foul. I think let's see here. Whoops.
Now we have live broadcasting with Ricky Nooner. If you're not watching.
All right. Yep. 57-55. Stanford's going to the free throw line. Stanford's only 5-9 for the free throw line tonight, so we'll see how that goes. All right. Here we go. Let's start our picks. Let's do our football picks for the week, Brad. This will be basically the rivalry weeks. Stanford made the first free throw. And so I don't know if Chuck Barrett still does basketball or not, but I'm not going to say that I'm going to be a Chuck Barrett type of announcer or anything like that. But but anyway, yeah, Arkansas is probably going to lose this game down by 4.
one of the few things good about moving to Hot Springs, I actually get to listen to the Chuck Barrett's show from the ESPN network out of Hot Springs now. So that's pretty decent. So
Yep. Let's see here. 1 3-pointer missed. And a good foul. Arkansas's going to the line. All right, here we go. All right, so this week is basically rivalry week. We're starting with our Thanksgiving game, Brad. Ole Miss at Mississippi State. Give me Ole Miss. This should not be a contest.
yeah, Ole Miss shouldn't win. Although again, it's a game that you throw out the record books. I mean, Mississippi State is fighting for bowl eligibility, but yeah, give me Ole Miss because they're fighting for a New Year's Six playoff. our New Year's Six bowl berth. So give me Ole Miss.
Missouri and Arkansas. Missouri, it's not going to be close. Move on.
Uh, I do think Arkansas keeps it close. I'm going to disagree with you on that one.
I know.
I think Arkansas does keep it close, but I do have Missouri winning.
Missouri wins by at least 21.
At least, but woo! Historically, this is a close game, Ricky.
That is true. That is true. I'll give you that much. Air Force at Boise State. Air Force has been not so great as of late. They have struggled. Give me Boise State.
Boise State just fired their coach. They're also, I believe, fighting for bowl eligibility. Brian Harsin is actually the candidate to take over that job again. But I'm not going against the academy, so I'm going Air Force.
Of course you ain't going to go get – yeah, go ahead. Oregon State at Oregon. Oregon is still fighting for that playoff spot.
Oregon State's pesky. They came close against Washington, but I got Oregon winning. Bo Nix is probably going to be the Heisman winner, Ricky.
And well-deservedly so. He's been in college for the last 20 years.
Exactly.
Kentucky at Louisville, I don't see an upset here.
You could. I want to go with Kentucky. I really want to pull the trigger. Right now, I'm going to Kentucky. Kentucky over Louisville. An upset.
Texas A&M at LSU. Bobby Petrino, I don't think, has ever beaten LSU. Is Bobby Petrino the interim head coach?
He is not the interim head coach. It's another guy. I can't remember who's the interim right now. It's not Bobby Petrino. He has beaten LSU once. Remember Ryan Mallett at Little Rock when they threw the touchdown to seal the Sugar Bowl berth. That's the only time they beat LSU. But I do have LSU beating Texas A&M.
Give me the upset, Texas A&M. Northwestern, who is bowl eligible, faces Illinois, who needs to win to be bowl eligible.
Northwestern is playing pretty good football. Give me Northwestern.
Yeah, I really want Brett Bielema to win this one, though. I really do. I really root for him. Let's see here. Arkansas down by 2, 13.8. They just fouled Stanford to go to the line. It looks like they're in the double bonus, I think. I hate these rules, I swear. They need to stick to one rule.
Yes, I agree.
They need to stick with one rule. Let's see here. Let's see if he misses or makes it. He missed the free throw, and we get the rebound. Oh, we almost turned it over. 10 seconds left. 9, 8. Debo all the way, and he gets fouled. He's going the free throw line. 6.8 seconds left. He's got to make these free throws. All right, here we go. I don't know why I put Vanderbilt. Because it's a SEC game. Vanderbilt, Tennessee. Tennessee wins. You won't believe what record I had for Vanderbilt at the beginning of the year.
Yeah, I'm at 7-5, didn't you?
8-4.
Oh Lord. Well, they are getting stadium upgrades. That's a positive, I guess, for Vanderbilt.
I guess so. Arkansas State at Marshall. The only reason I'm picking Marshall is because I want to have a perfect record for Arkansas State this year.
Well, I don't want you to have a perfect record just because of that. I'm going to have Arkansas State with me. Plus, I would like to see Arkansas State at 7-5. So Arkansas. I'm going to pick Arkansas.
I would too. I would too. I'm rooting for those Red Wolves. Wisconsin at Minnesota. I think Minnesota has to win to be bowl eligible.
Yes, they do. I'm going to pick Minnesota here. I know Wisconsin beat Nebraska last week, and Minnesota hasn't played exceptionally well, but it's a rivalry game. They need to get bowl eligible. I'm going to go Minnesota.
And Stanford misses at the buzzer. We're going into overtime.
Hey, there you go.
Yeah, we're going into overtime. I will turn this back on later. Here we go. And who'd you pick, Brad?
I picked Minnesota over Wisconsin.
Yep, good pick. Alabama goes to the Iron Bowl to face Auburn. To face Auburn. I think, is Auburn already bowl eligible? Let's look at the standings real quick.
They beat us to be bowl eligible.
Well, everybody beat us to be bowl eligible.
I got Alabama. I do think Auburn will keep it close for a couple of quarters, but Alabama pulls away.
Yeah, I mean, the only reason I would think this would even be close is because if it's one of those you just wipe the record book out. Florida State at Florida. I do have Florida State winning this football game, even though it is the backups that are playing. I just think Florida State's more talented.
Florida State is more talented. Florida's got a lot of young players. Give me Florida State in a close one.
Clemson at South Carolina. Clemson is starting to turn things around.
Clemson is. South Carolina is making a late push, too, to be bowl eligible once again. Give me Clemson, though. I think Clemson revenges last year's loss.
Georgia goes to Georgia Tech. I really
Uh,
want to pull the trigger. This would be the shock of the year if Georgia Tech pulls this off.
Georgia Tech is actually bowl eligible this year, I believe. I think they just beat Syracuse, so they're actually bowl eligible this year.
Which is weird because they usually suck.
And Georgia Tech last year actually kept it close for 3 quarters, kept this game in Athens for 3 quarters very close. But I do got Georgia winning.
Georgia Tech is fourth in the ACC. Are you kidding me?
They are. They have played very well. And
They've
they
won one non-conference game. They have won one non-conference game. Oh my gosh.
and they are six.
North Carolina State at North Carolina at North Carolina State.
Give me the Wolfpack. Wolfpack over North Carolina.
I agree. Fresno State at San Diego State.
This is going to be Brady Hoke's last game. He's retiring after this season, but give me Fresno State.
Yep. No, not everybody can go out on top like the Undertaker.
No.
California at UCLA. Give me UCLA.
Yeah, UCLA. I love what one of the announcers, who was, I can't remember who it was, that no, Dan Mullen said, are they sure they have the right coach in Los Angeles on the hot seat? Because, they were talking about Chip Kelly's job, but really, Lincoln Riley's being finishing 7-5. So, yeah. So there you go.
But he's right, and that's the thing. He's right. I mean, they paid Lincoln Riley a buku of money. Not only that, but his family gets a private jet anytime they
I agree.
want. Oh, it's ridiculous on how much money they threw out there, and it doesn't hurt my feelings one bit. Colorado State goes down to the Oahu and play Hawaii.
Give me Colorado State. Hawaii stinks.
I'm taking Hawaii.
Why not?
They both stink. All right, Brad. And this is the obvious game of the week, the rivalry of all rivals, Ohio State against Michigan. Before you pick, let me ask you this: is this the best rivalry in college in college sports? Like overall, not just football. We'll say college football. Is this the best rivalry in college football?
I would say yes. I would say yes. And the reason why I would say yes, because it is now pure hatred. I mean, the two coaches was asked this week, do they respect each other? And both of them declined to comment on that question. But the crazy part is I got a lady in my church. She's a huge Ohio State fan. She's from Ohio, and she remembers the days of Woody versus Bo, and where that was a mutual respect for the two coaches. Now, Woody would make comments like, if I run out of gas in Michigan, push my car to Ohio so I don't have to buy gas in Michigan to pay the taxes and stuff and all that stuff. And and everything else. But she said, but it was a mutual respect between the two coaches, because Bo actually was an assistant under Woody Hayes, and he also played for Woody Hayes. So there was a respect level there, as always. But it was a war because, from 1969 to 1979, every game of that rivalry decided the Big Ten championship. It was to decide the Big Ten championship for the year. And so that's kind of how it grew from that. And of course, Urban Meyer refusing to say Michigan. That's continued. It's just, I think it's a good rivalry. I mean, I think it is the best, but I would say this: Alabama and Auburn fans would argue that too. And I've been in the middle of that one too. I mean, I've been into Alabama, And I have talked to Auburn fans and Alabama fans in Alabama, and I'm telling you right now, there's no middle there either. So I mean, I would say 1A, 1B. And I would not argue with anyone who would say, no, Alabama versus Auburn is the best rivalry. I wouldn't argue that either.
With that being said, Brad, who wins this game tomorrow? I'm sorry, Saturday. This will be Saturday game. Who wins this game?
This is going to be a tough one because Michigan's looking for 3 wins in a row, but I do think Michigan's got a chip on their shoulder, and I think Michigan is the more physical team. I got Michigan beating Ohio State in a close one.
You know, this is the game, Brad. I've always had a hard time, picking because now I have gotten the last 4 correct.
Yeah.
I've got the last 4 correct, and and that's the thing with with picks. There's always pride with picks. You know what I'm saying? There's always this pride with picks. Brad, something tells me Ohio State's going to win this game. And I
Yeah.
think a lot of it is just because I've seen Ohio State just grind the entire year. It's nothing new for them. This is a team that I didn't have any expectations for. As a matter of fact, I had them losing at least 2 or 3 in-season games this year, and they still won. They found a way to grind it out. I can't stand Ohio State. I just can't. I can't stand Ohio State. But something tells me, Brad, they're going to win.
This is a different Ohio State team. They actually play good defense, and their offense is not as explosive as in previous years. And like I said, that's why I think they do keep it close. And Michigan, but I just think Michigan's a more physical football team. I think Michigan also has a chip on their shoulder because of Jim Harbaugh not being there on the sidelines. And I think they are playing to that mentality. It's Michigan versus everybody. And I think they're just, and in the last 2 weeks, they can say, well, how's that working out for them? They've really struggled. Well, I don't think they're giving everything out to Ohio State in the last 2 games, if you know what I mean. I think they're saving a lot for Ohio State. So I just think Michigan wins, but I want to tell you, Ricky, it's not going to be like last year. Now, last year I had predicted Ohio State. The year before, I did pick Michigan to finally beat Ohio State for the first time in years. But I do think Michigan does beat Ohio State because they're the more physical team. And I think because of chip. But again, it's not going to be easy. It's going to be a close.
Brian Day to Texas A&M when this game's over with.
If they lose, Ricky, I would not doubt. I mean, it would not surprise me because only the reason why it would not surprise me would be because of the pressure that these Ohio State people will have on Ryan Day for losing 3 straight.
Yep. And that's the thing, though. That's the expectation is you got to win. You got to win the big ones. And he has yet to win. I mean, obviously he's beaten Michigan, but he has not yet to win a national championship or anything like that. And so that's what their expectation is.
His record against Michigan right now is 1-2.
Has he only been the head coach for 4 seasons now?
Mm-hmm.
What do you have balloons popping up for there, Brad? All right, Brad, give me one DA of the week real quick. Then we're getting out of here.
I got 3, and I'm going to pitch them real quick. So my first 2 is filling up their DA Hall of Fame resume. So the first one goes to the NCAA for denying the claim of Jacksonville State and James Madison for being bowl eligible. I think it's the dumbest rule ever, but that's the NCAA for you because they're really dumb. My second DA of the week goes to Joe Biden because apparently he cannot tell the difference between Taylor Swift and Britney Spears because he thought Britney Spears was on tour on his 81st birthday, by the way. And my final DA of the week goes to Deion Sanders. I think he's a tremendous coach, and I know what's behind the reasoning for his outlandishness in Colorado because he's trying to build a culture, which I respect that. I don't have no problem with that. But when you can't tell, when you thought Mount Rushmore was in Los Angeles, California, instead of South Dakota, you're a DA. So my third DA of the week goes to Deion Sanders.
And they're light years apart from each other. That's hilarious.
Yeah.
They are light years apart from each other. So I will have an honorable mention for myself here, Brad. So we took Shelby to the Arkansas State game last Friday, and they played the Lady Razorbacks. And so, well, Shelby, Red Wolves, she likes Wolves. She's said, hey, I might want to consider going to Arkansas State University. First and fourth quarter, Arkansas State played pretty excellent. Arkansas just shot lights out the second, third quarter, which ended up them winning the game. But during the game, there in the first quarter, me and Shelby get put on the jumbotron. It gets better. It gets better. So Arkansas State is a Coke account. They have been for years. From my understanding, Pepsi has made a pitch. Don't know if they're going to get it, but they have made a pitch for them to become a Pepsi account. Hopefully that'll happen, which would make sense because there is a Pepsi facility in Jonesboro, and they bottle Dr. Pepper there, so they've got pretty good power there. On the jumbotron, so all they had there was Coke products. Like I said, all they had there was Coke products. On the jumbotron, you see my Pepsi shirt, and you see a 24-ounce cup with Coca-Cola on it. And it was Dr. Pepper. It was not a Coca-Cola. I swear. I did not drink a Coke that day. So
Well,
I may be getting fired next week.
well, it happens.
All right, y'all. That's it. I'm going to bed.
All right. Good night, Ricky.
Good night. Have a happy Thanksgiving, man.
Happy Thanksgiving to you.